pride can rob us from going forward.
Yeah, pride's an interesting.
We don't want to change things, and we don't want to change the way we perceive things.
Yeah, pride and ego is a very interesting subject, right? Because you've got to be careful about being arrogant.
Yeah.
You've got to be careful about being prideful, right? Or do you have a heart of serving, and can you take what you, and you got to also ask yourself, what do I deserve? Right? Because sometimes if you don't think you deserve, sometimes you'll self-sabotage. And I think really having a heart, and that's why I built my mantra about giving value, doing more than expected. I believe when I have things, I need to share things. You guys believe that?
Yeah.
Like I want to share. So if I find like a cool application, or I read some cool book, or I meet some cool person, or I find some cool place, I want to share that. Don't you?
Yes.
Right? Like I'm into that, figuring out how do I build a big arsenal so it's easy for me to share. Yesterday, did I give away a lot of goodies?
Yes.
Right? Because I want to share, build things to give and share. So thank you for that. Who's next? What else you talking about when you talking about perspectives? Back row. First name is?
Allie.
And where are you from?
Detroit.
All right. Thanks for coming.
You have to have this goal well in mind. You have to be prepared to change as the circumstances change, knowing you will reach your goal.
Well, that's good, right? Yeah, I told the group yesterday, and I'll repeat it again, that I was having lunch with Brian Tracy a few years ago, and I was asking him his perspective on some of my goals that had changed, and that I wasn't accomplishing some of the things that I'd written down. And he's like, "Are they your goals anymore?" And I said, "No." He said, "Well, change them. Well, what are your goals, right? Let go of it. Because things do change in life, right? You get perspective." My dad passed away last year. Quite interesting how that perspective had changed my relationship with my mom. How about this one for a side note on perspectives? So for 3 years, I struggled mentally when my dad was going to pass away, and I knew it was going to happen soon. I said, am I going to be able to stand up as a speaker that goes all the way around the world, like 40-something countries? Am I going to be able to stand up and talk about my dad at his funeral? I don't know if you've ever done that with a parent, but it's quite an interesting thought to go through your mind. So I said, when my dad passed away, he passed away in my arms, which was another quite interesting subject. I had no idea how powerful and how happy that made me to be able to have that experience. So I decided that I would give a tribute to my dad. Rather than get up and say, okay, I'm just going to talk about it, I'm going to give a tribute. And so I go to the pastor and say, here's the deal. Now imagine this. I say, here, you do the front end, I'll carry the show, and you do the back end. And he's like, huh? I said, he's like, cool, it's your dad. So I got my mom in the front row, and I got my daughter over here and his son-in-law. And my dad was 76 years old and had a great life. And so we didn't know at that age, do you have a lot of people at the funeral or not? Well, hundreds of people show up at the funeral, right? So I was like, this is kind of quite interesting. So I'm like getting my head straight, like I attempt to do it every time I give a talk. Lady comes up to me and says, hey, your dad was the first guy I ever kissed. She's like 70-something years old. So, yeah, we used to play spin the bottle when we were like 10. So like I'm trying to get my psyche ready, right? So I got the setup here, and I got the slides over here, and I got everything going. And I tell people, I say, here's the deal, guys. I said, I usually don't read a speech, but because in case I got really emotional, and you guys know I'm going to get emotional, right? And I'm going to cry, and I don't mind that. But if I got too emotional, I'm going to be able to at least get through it. So I've written out 3 pages of my speech, and like I hadn't read a speech in maybe ever. So I had this all ready to go, and then I opened with this question of perspective. I said, how many of you think funerals are boring? And the room froze. And most of them kind of knew who I am, And I said, I think most funerals are boring. Go raise your hand. How many think funerals are boring? And I do this, and everybody starts raising their hand. I said, this isn't going to be boring. I'm going to do a tribute to my dad. And so I took pictures, and I would show a picture like of my dad's next door neighbor, and I'd go, hey, where's Benny at? And I said, Benny, raise your hand. I said, Benny, remember you and the dad right in the back? Look at that picture right there. And people just love the whole deal, reliving my dad's experiences. And then my dad would go wear a bandana sometimes, and my mom's on the front row, and she goes, look, their dad looks like Willie Nelson. And the whole place starts laughing and everything. So the perspectives is quite interesting, And so since that time, my dad's passed away, my mom's moved closer to me, and my mom and I now get to see each other every 2 or 3 days, and that's really cool. Where I used to only see my mom just a couple times a year. Different change, right? So being able to really take the next few years of my